it's interesting to think about this, a long time. So 70 years. I mean, when the Queen came to the throne, we'd just come out of World War II. I mean, the changes that we've seen over that time, even in technology and media. I mean, when the Queen was coronated in the 1950s, there was so much debate around live television and whether cameras should be allowed to film the coronation because it was seen as being too accessible. Well, imagine those debates now when everyone's on social media talking about this. So just the most incredible shift, I think, in terms of development. And I don't think we'll see that again over kind of the lifetime of such an important figure.
So the Queen was one of few people who could truly see the rapid change in the media environment since she became the Queen in 1952. How do you think she was able to adapt to the changes across the decades?
I think the monarchy knew they had to adapt. I think the debates around the coronation show that they knew they needed to let people see what was going on so they could be believed and they could be understood. And I think, there's been some kind of reluctance over the years, and you can see that in some of the interesting debates around live television and tabloids and all of these kind of debates we've had. But you can see they've kind of learned they have to adapt. They have to have a social media, otherwise they're not in touch with different audiences, younger audiences, for example, who might only see them through Instagram or through TikTok. So I think they knew in order to survive, they had to move with the times.
And of course, the biggest impression that I have of the Queen is her calm and poise. And people often ask how that's even possible, especially over the past few decades.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's really interesting about her. And I mean, we know very little of what she actually thinks. So the amount of, interviews she gave over her life are minimal. You can count them on your fingers. So I think the fact that we knew very little about her personal opinions, particularly around politics, I think is really notable. We think of her as an image, right? As kind of this, as a symbol. And I think that's really important to kind of keeping us distant, but also keeping her in people's minds as an object of affection, I suppose.
And it would have been a challenge to deal particularly with tabloid media reports on royal matters and how intrusive the paparazzi can be.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the Diana years. There was huge debates around. That was a particular moment for that. I think we've also seen it more recently, perhaps with stuff around Prince Andrew and how that's been reported. And that's maybe tabloids plus kind of social media and all of those things. But certainly changing news forms have changed how we interact with monarchy and how the monarchy has learned to interact with us as well.
Yes, and what sort of role do you think she played during those various media frenzies when it came to controversial issues? You mentioned Andrew. There's, of course, the death of Diana as well. What sort of role do you think she would have played in the background, influencing members of the royal family and Buckingham Palace?
Well, I think what we saw publicly was this idea of her as a grandmother. So you really saw that with Diana. When Diana died, there was a lot of criticism that the monarchy weren't responding appropriately. And then that was kind of mitigated through Diana through the Queen talking about being a grandmother to the young princes and how she was taking care of them. So I think publicly that was always kind of mitigated through a family lens. I think privately, if we think about the monarchy as an institution, the Queen was a CEO. There's probably a lot of kind of work that went in there to PR, for example, that would have been really important, and also managing the different people within the firm. So managing both the royals and kind of the people that work for them.
So would you expect King Charles, when he's coronated, to take a similar approach to the media as his mother had done and take a big step back from making comments about politics?
Well, I think we probably will see that because I think we'll have to. I think they know they need to play that game. But there is a question of, is it too late, I think? We know this about Charles. We know his opinions and all of these things. So is it kind of too late to backtrack on that? If you never know it about the Queen, you can keep that kind of area of mystique. But we do know, we can guess what Charles thinks about various things. So is he ever going to be able to pull that back?
But would you think in this day and age he would be using new media resources to speak about his passions, particularly with the environment and his campaigns to tackle climate change, but also over sustainable and organic farming methods?
Well, and he has been doing, and we've seen that over the years in various media. Actually, he wrote a book, for example, in the 1980s. But I think, as monarch, there is various rules about political neutrality, for example, that make that quite complicated. But I think what we'll see in the UK, at least, we've just had a government that's come in that have been changing energy and environmental policies already, and they've been in 3 days. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, given we know that he's kind of passionate about those issues and whether he will speak up against that new government.
Dr. Laura Clancy, really good to get your thoughts. Thanks very much.